In this movie, I want to address a couple of concerns and issues that people may run into depending upon the way that your Windows machine is set up. Here we're running Windows 7, and I wanted to just go over a couple of things that you may have to deal with when installing Search and Play for SwingThing. So let's start by doing a download here. I'll just go ahead and click the download link, and we'll let that download. And I'll just tell it to save it. Now I could just tell it to run it, but I'm going to have it save it. You will have the security scan automatically run on a Windows 7 machine, and you'll normally see this message down here that says that this could harm your computer. Now, I understand that your concerns could be valid here, but in this particular case, this is really not an issue to have to worry about. I say that because Microsoft has a program in place that takes quite a bit of work to get into their registry. It also costs some money, and we're just giving this software away. I didn't want to go to all the trouble of going through them to get them to acknowledge that this program is one that they've that has kind of passed muster with Microsoft. So because I didn't do that, it automatically just tells you this because it doesn't have it in its registry. I'm not going to tell you that there aren't any problems that may not come up in the program, but nothing that's going to harm you or harm your computer. If you see any glitches or any little problems, display problems or anything that seems wrong, we'd appreciate hearing about it here at SwingThing, and then we can put out a new version and correct those problems as users find them. But in general, I don't think you'll need to worry about that at all. So let's go ahead and click here on the actions thing, and we can see that we have the option of running the program or not. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump right over to the downloads folder instead. So let's go ahead and just hide this, and let's get into the downloads area here. And so there's our installer. So let's go ahead and run the installer and see how it behaves. Now this is a brand new installation of Windows 7. I haven't added anything to it yet at all. You'll get another message here again. They just don't know who we are, so this is why they're giving us a warning here. So just tell it it's okay, and we'll click yes. And then we'll just go through the process of doing the installation here. So I'll just click through these. Now, if you haven't read this, this is really not a legal disclaimer so much as some important messages that you may want to know about. For example, one of the things that Search and Play requires in order to properly work is an installation of QuickTime. You can get that download for free through Apple, and you actually have the option, if you want, of also installing iTunes. And you may want to do that. iTunes is a pretty cool program just on its own, but if later on you decide that you are interested in the SwingThing Library for iTunes, then having a copy of iTunes installed on your computer would be just one less step, because you'll use iTunes in order to play the entire library, which would be a library that you could get from us for only $99. And that's the entire SwingThing library with everything in it. Then you have it on your computer and you wouldn't need an internet connection. However, Search and Play does require a connection to the internet in order to listen to the music, because when you do a search and you say play this piece, this show, it then pulls it off the internet and streams it to you. So an internet connection is required to play music, play the shows with Search and Play. Okay, so there are some links in here that if you want, you can take those in and you can go and find out more about that. Here you can find out more about Search and Play, or the SwingThing library for iTunes, by just copying this URL and pasting it into your web browser. Okay, let's finish this installation. So we're just going to do a standard install. Okay, and now we'll just click Finish, and then this will go ahead and launch Search and Play for us here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and close that window as well. If this appears to be running a little slow in this demonstration, it's because I'm actually on a Mac computer and I'm using what they call virtualization software, which means that I can run Windows as kind of like a second installation of an operating system. But it does run a little bit slow because it's sharing my processor with the rest of what the computer is up to, including the recording of this movie here. I do believe that this should launch this, but I'm just waiting to see if it's going to. I'm pretty sure it will just open up here in a moment. Okay, so you can enter any username here you want. You can put in your name. It doesn't really matter. This is just one of those things that is actually required when the PC version of this is running. I just clicked OK there. Alright, so here it is. It's open up. Now you don't need to take up the entire screen with this. You can scale this down a little bit if you want and work with it from in here. So when you first come in, every time you launch the program, you will see this little introduction here. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that. You can watch some of the other tutorial movies that are included with this, and I'll show you about those here in a moment. So let's just click here, and it takes you directly to the tutorial section. Now there are a lot of tutorials, but you don't necessarily need to watch them all. Really the only one that I would recommend watching right away is Getting Started here. The remainders are about particular subjects that you may or may not be interested in. For example, downloading shows will show you how you can actually download individual shows and keep those shows at no extra charge. Installing SwingThing into iTunes so that you can then put shows on your iPod or your iPad or your iPhone. We cover that here. And scheduling shows, if you're a broadcaster and you want to keep track of the shows that you've already played and don't put them back into circulation before a certain number of days have gone by, that's what this tutorial here is about. So let's move on here. Let's go right to the shows. And when you first come in here, you don't see anything except for the singing and swinging in person. I'll just go ahead and type in a search here. Let's type in Hampton, and I'll hit the enter return key, and then it'll find all the shows that have Lionel Hampton. And this one here found Hampton 10 times. That's why the number 10 is on the right column under hits. You can see what those are here. By the way, if the text goes out of view, just click in here, and then you'll be able to scroll down farther. Anyway, let's find out what's going to happen here. We haven't installed QuickTime on this machine yet, and what I'm going to do for starters here is I'm going to click right up here. Let me click out of there so you can see, and I'm going to change this. Let's see, let's click on it again. I'm going to change this to play in this window only for now. And that means that it'll use this little player window here. Now I can just click Start the Show. By the way, it'll remember that setting. So let's go ahead and click here. And the player window is going to come up and tell you that Windows Media Player doesn't know what to do. So this is one of the first problems you'll run into, is especially on a Windows 7 machine. If it doesn't have QuickTime installed, it's not going to be able to play the show in the player window until you've installed QuickTime. So that's what this is warning you about. So when that happens, here's what I would do. Let's go ahead and just close that window for now, and we'll also just quit out of Search and Play for the moment. And then what we'll do is we'll launch our web browser, and we'll go to the Apple website, and we'll download QuickTime and put it on board. So let me just pop this window open again here, and I'll open up a new tab. And let's go to apple.com/quicktime/download. I think downloads is, I believe, is what it is. All right, well, let's just back up one here. We'll find it. It's easy enough to find. Go to QuickTime. Okay, there it is right there. And so here you can just get the free download right there. So it's apple.com/quicktime. And then just click here to get the free download for QuickTime 7. You'll notice I don't have to put in an email address with them. So in this case, I'm just going to tell it to run it so that we can actually do the installation and get it in there. All right, so we'll go ahead and hide this in the meantime. And I'll just go through the process here of installing this. I'm just going to click all the way through. We don't really need any desktop shortcut for that. That's just taking up extra space on the desktop. But yeah, automatically do the updates. I think that's usually a good recommendation. Install. Yes, we'll let Apple make these changes. Okay, so it looks like we're at the end here. We'll click Finish. And no, we don't need to go Pro. All right, so that basically gives us QuickTime. And this may or may not work right away. If it doesn't, we'll go in and make a little adjustment and you'll be ready to go. So let's come back in here and let's see, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and launch SearChnPLAY. I think that would be the easiest. So I'm just going to launch this up here. Now, I've been seeing this message on the PC. I haven't quite figured this one out yet, but we'll be putting out a new version that corrects this problem. It doesn't seem to happen on the Mac version at all. I don't know quite why that is. So we'll have to come back and revisit that here at the programming desk, but it still works. So I'm going to, again, just click here. You'll see this every time you first launch the program, but just click through those when you get those. So from here, we'll just pick a show. Definitely have to fix that problem. And then press Start the Show. So now you see the QuickTime logo pop up.
A SwingThing special, Lost and Found department.
Okay, so there's the little player and it works. Now in some cases that may not work. If you're still getting a message that comes up, something having to do with Windows Media Player, let me show you where you can go and take care of that little problem. So let's go down to the Start menu here. And let's see, I want to go to Control Panels. And we'll click on Programs. And Default Programs. Or we can actually make a program the default for all file types and protocols it can open. Let's go there. and then you can click here on, now there's two things that we can look at. QuickTime itself, if we look at that, you can just set this as a default program if you like QuickTime better than Windows Media, or you can just choose what QuickTime will and will not open, and that would be done down here. So if I click down here, you can then see all the different file types, and what you can do is check or uncheck the ones that you want to be associated with QuickTime. So as you can see here, they've got some of these already selected, and if we continue to go down here, the SwingThing shows themselves are MOV files, and so you can see that MOV is checked right down here. So if you didn't want QuickTime to play movie files, MOVs, then you would uncheck that box. But it was checked, it was set up during the installation process, but in some cases that doesn't happen. So if that's the case, you can come in here and you want it to be able to play MOV files. So just make sure that that box is checked, and then you can click the Save button. Now, in a worst case scenario, you may also have to go into Windows Media Player and uncheck MOV files for Windows Media. So if we come down and we look, you'll see MOV is unchecked. If this was checked, it might confuse the computer. So those are the two places where you may have to go in and adjust the settings in order to get this to work properly, and then the SwingThing shows will be able to play in the Search and Play app. So those are the only little gotchas that unfortunately we have no control over at our end. And that little problem that I showed you, or that we discovered as we were clicking through some of these, where you get this message, I'm going to continue to see if I can't address that problem. But in the meantime, you can always just kind of click OK to kind of click through, and then once you've done that, it will work. Okay, we'll be sending out updates to the program before too long, so probably by the time most of you have watched this movie, that problem will be resolved. Okay, well, we hope you enjoy using Search and Play for SwingThing and enjoy the shows. And be sure to get in touch with us if you ever have any questions, if you ever need any help, and we'll be glad to try and help you out.